Welcome to the Gym Owners Business Podcast with Mel Tempest. The Gym Owners Business Podcast is proudly supported and sponsored by Thomas Plummer, Myzone, Creative Fitness Marketing, and All Smiles Creative. The Gym Owners Business Podcast is part of the Gym Owners Business Network, which is the industry's go-to online hub designed to better service the needs of fitness business owners. The Gym Owners Business Network is currently finalising foundation memberships, so if you're a fitness business that would like to gain valuable and extensive exposure to the Australian and global fitness industries, then head to gymownersbusinessnetwork.net to find out more.
Well, good afternoon. It's Mel Tempest from the Gym Owners Business Podcast and Network. And today I'm speaking with Emmett Williams, President and Partner of Myzone. Myzone is a group heart rate tracking device monitor that monitors physical activity and rewards participants. But today we're not talking about Myzone. Today we're discussing the upcoming launch of Fibo USA, which is being held in December from the 5th to 8th in Florida, Orlando. Good afternoon, Emmett.
Good afternoon, Mel.
And how are you today?
I'm good. I'm really good. I'm looking forward to seeing you next month in Orlando for Fibo.
I love Orlando. I love the atmosphere and I love the culture there. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. Now, we're doing a coffee podcast today. So for our listeners that aren't aware of what a coffee podcast is, it's when we go for around about 15 minutes of time. And we're going to, I'm going to ask Emmett some questions about Fibo and why people need to get involved in this new event for the USA. And then at the end of the podcast, I'll be dropping Emmett's details into it. So if you want to get in touch with Emmett direct and you've got some more questions about Fibo or even about Myzone, you'll be able to get in touch with him. So let's kick off our coffee podcast, Emmett. Now, you've been at conventions and shows for quite a number of years now. Can we just go back to the very beginning and can you tell us what made you set up your very first Myzone show?
Oh, good question. Well, way back in 2011 when Myzone was incorporated, I and my partners had been involved in the fitness industry previously. We knew the value of trade shows, both in Australia with shows such as Filex, but also in the US with Ursa and Club Industry. So we knew the value of it, but when we launched Myzone, we saw it as a key activity for us to announce the new innovation to the industry, to find the innovators out there and influence them, get them talking about the product and then spread the good word. In many ways, a trade show is like a watering hole, if you will, where everyone comes to meet, and it's a very efficient way of spreading a message.
And obviously setting up your first show, there's a little bit of work that is required beforehand as a supplier. What sort of work was involved in that?
Wow. Back in 2011, it was very manual. I remember personally booking the booth space, buying the new signage, coming up with a communication plan to invite clients and prospective clients, working out what social functions were most leveraged. At a lot of these shows, there are conflicting events to go to, and you need a strategy around that as a supplier to get the most out of the week. So it was very, very manual. And now that we're 8 years or 7.5 years into Myzone, it's less manual. We've done scores and scores and scores of them. And now it's very, very systemized. We know what we're trying to achieve at each show, and we go to work in planning it. And one of my favorite operational events is what we call T-21, which is 21 days before a trade show. The marketing team who are organising it pull everyone in onto a conference call for 30 minutes, and we literally walk through the show chronologically. And Mel, I literally did this yesterday with the Myzone team here in the US around Fibo, and it started with the day that we're flying in, what hotels we're staying at, what events we're going to, who's responsible for the booth, who's responsible for sharing assets with other providers who want to use the Myzone system at the booth, the lead tracking device, so on and so forth, and it's all in one spreadsheet. And now it's just bread and butter for us. But back then it was about working it out.
And surviving, obviously, also your first show. So tell me, there's going to be a lot of suppliers there this year, and it will be their first show. What's the best advice, or what's three tips that you can give suppliers attending the show?
Okay, 3 tips. Tip number 1 is don't just measure it by leads acquired. That is short-term thinking. It's tempting to do it that way. But the thing with trade shows and your go-to-market strategy in general is that there's a threshold point. And, it's a bit like the flywheel. You need to put effort into your channel and slowly but surely build up the speed of the flywheel. And then at some point, it will just take off. And, if you think of an S curve, starting at the bottom of the S, it's hard work, and then it kicks. And that's known as the knee of the bend. That's where you've got to get to. But if you're judging it just by leads and just by converted sales, then you'll do yourself a disservice. That would be tip number 1. Tip 2 would be to come up with a clear goal for the show and then a strategy around that goal. So the goal, or I should say the set of goals may involve, if it's a new product, it may involve meeting 5 key executives from the top 100 clubs in America, right? And there is a list out there that lists the top 100, and it might be, that's it. We need to get 5 contacts because those guys are well connected, they're influencers, and if we can move the chains with them, then there'll be real returns off the back of it. That's just one example of a goal. So come up with your goal for the show, and then your strategy to get there. Incidentally, on that goal, your strategy to get those 5 top 100 executives may be to attend the conferences, the cocktail parties or the functions afterwards, where there's an opportunity to shake hands and be introduced to new people. So that would be my second point. And my third point, I've almost touched on it, and that is the social side of it. There's nothing worse than suppliers or vendors standing on a booth with a cold product, coming into the channel and trying to build momentum by smiling at people walking past. The tried and true and tested activity is to get social, learn who's who in the zoo, and be friendly, not always selling when you're out at the bar, but just get to know people, whether they're another supplier or whether they're an operator. And again, the S-curve will play a part. At some point, you'll know just enough people in the channel that you'll get uplift. And what you'll find is that they will then start bringing people past the booth, or they'll walk past your booth. You'll be laughing with them, having a conversation. One of their friends will walk past. There'll be an introduction, and off you go. So to sum it all up, take a long-term view with this. Really, if you're attending a trade show, it should be folding into a 3 to 5 year business plan, more than just, a quarterly a plan that involves generating leads, if that makes sense.
It certainly does, and there's some great tips, Emmett. So my next question to you is this: you spoke about the pre-event conventions or going to the cocktail parties, but how does the new supplier on the block get themselves an invite to these events?
Well, at a lot of and you're probably in a better position to share what events are coming up at Fibo, but certainly at the shows that I've been to, there are a lot of opening receptions and these type of general social functions that everyone's invited to. And that would be your first port of call. Your second port of call would be to go and have a beer after the show at the local at the hotel lobby for the show itself. It's arguably one of the best places to socialise. And then from there, again, the more people you know, the more invites you'll get to other parties. A lot of the time, vendors will be running late night parties, and you only get an invite if you're a customer or you're a prospect. And if you're a supplier, it's hard to get an invite. You need to be friends with the other suppliers to get that invite, and that comes with time. You can't expect that straight away. So yeah, go back to the basics. Get to the public networking events, and get to the hotel lobby bar.
That's great advice. So let's go to the other side of it now. I'm a club operator, and I attend all these shows every year. What's the best advice that you can give to club operators attending shows? Because you go there and there's just hundreds of stalls of all of this fantastic new equipment and all the latest gizmos. What's the best advice? And I know that you've been a club operator, that you can give to those attending.
Yeah, I think, again, take the long view. The reason you're going to the show is not to buy one extra piece of equipment to be additive to the gym floor. That's not really why you're going. I think as an operator, you're going from a strategic perspective. And you know, one of the best analogies that I think of when I think strategy is, you know, I think of an orchestra of instruments, and this orchestra has percussion and woodwind and brass and all sorts of instruments. And you, as the operator, you're the composer, and you get to choose which instruments you're going to turn on, which ones you're going to be turning off, which ones will be loud, which ones will be quiet. And as the composer, you're trying to tweak with everything to get the outcome, which may be inspirational music, uplifting music in this particular analogy. As an operator, it's no different. You've got all these instruments at your disposal, and the trick to getting the outcome that you're looking for is not buying as much as you can or using as much as you can. The trick is getting the activities to work together cohesively in concert. That is how you get the outcome. And with gym equipment, with software, with programming, with all of those activities, they're an instrument. And depending on what your goal is, depending on what market you're in, depending on what hill you're trying to conquer, will determine what orchestra of activity that you choose for your business. And what better place to go than a trade show to have a look at all those instruments and then ask yourself the question, you know, how do I tweak with this, turn the knobs, pull the levers to get what I want? And further, where else can I go where there are hundreds of other operators who are in the same position in a different market? There's nothing stopping you walking up to other operators on a booth and saying, you know what, I'm thinking of adding something like this. Have you added it yet? No, I haven't. Right. So why is it that you're looking at adding it? Well, you know, my situation in my market looks like this. Well, that's similar to mine. Why don't we talk about it for 10 minutes and you strategize together? And I think that, you know, sometimes in the industry, we're very quick to copy what we think is working elsewhere. And there's nothing wrong with that. If someone's proven it and spent the money trialing it, great, mimic it and take it into your market. There's no problem whatsoever. But make sure you put a lot of thought into it. Thought is hard work a lot of the time. We all like heuristics or rules of thumb that will take us to a quick answer. But when you go to a show, think strategic, connect with people, use it as thinking time to make sure that your blend, your orchestra is bang on. Yeah, that's a long-winded answer, Mel, but that's the way I think about it.
No, look, I certainly agree with you. And it sort of leads us into our final question for our coffee podcast today. How do you assess what are the good ideas and the bad ideas from the show? Because I know in my early years when I was first experiencing some of these shows, I'd walk away with, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Some of them were great ideas and some of them just absolutely died real quick. So what sort of advice do you give when it comes to assessing both the good and the bad from the show?
Yeah, look, I like using what's called an ICE score, ICE, as in cold ice. And that score I use not only at conventions, and of course at Myzone we go off to other conventions such as the Consumer Electronics Show and technology conferences. So we're also buyers on the other side of it. So I use that there, but I also use that score internally in the business just to stack rank ideas. And the score looks like this. I stands for impact, C stands for confidence, and E stands for ease. So if you think that this particular activity, whether that be equipment, software, programming, if you think that it's going to have a big impact, you would give that a high score out of 10. You might give it a 9. Low impact would be a 0, 1, 2, 3. C is for confidence. So if you're confident that if you purchase it and if you deploy it, that the outcome that you're trying to solve for is highly likely, then you would give it a high score out of 10. And ease, same sort of thing. If it's easy, give it an 8, 9, or a 10. If it's really difficult to pull it off, give it a low score. So each and every idea has a score next to it. Then you stack rank it, and essentially you end up prioritizing based on the ideas with the highest scores. Now, a great way of building up to that is to get your staff and divide them into groups and give them different booths or vendors to go off and meet with, and give them a set of questions that you're looking for. Everything from, what problem does this solve, to where are your reference sites, to what is the pricing, to, what is the biggest resistance point for most operators when they roll this out. All those standard questions that you operators ask, give them that one pager, have them fill it in. And then at the end of the show, when you get back to the facility or to the head office, have each team present it to the group and then have the group score it on an ICE score. And that's a really collaborative and thorough way of collecting the ideas, prioritizing them, and then at the end of it, you've got an action plan and, you're off to the races.
Well, Emmett, I don't doubt that there will be a lot of suppliers and gym operators walking the Fibo show, implementing the ICE method in a couple of weeks in Orlando. Perhaps you might just have to get the ICE method trademarked. You could be onto something there. I don't doubt that.
Hey, I actually stole it. Don't worry.
You stole it?
Growth hacking.
Well,
Hacking Growth by Sean. Can't think of his last name. Yeah, don't let me claim that one. I steal most things, Mel.
Well, you know what? There's nothing wrong with doing that and then tweaking it to suit your own demographic. I'm all for that, as long as you put your hand up and say, I'm not claiming that, but I did tweak it to suit my own business. That's one of the ways that we become successful. Look, I've had a great time this afternoon chatting to Emmett Williams from Myzone. As he said, he'll be out at the Fibo USA show in Orlando, December the 5th to 8th. It's a fantastic launch to be a part of. So if you're a supplier and you're still considering taking out a booth, I suggest that you give Jake a call at Fibo. Otherwise, do pop along as an attendee. Go along and see Emmett and the team on the Myzone booth. I'll be there walking the show floor and also running the Fibo talks. Emmett, thank you very much for your time today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mel. Appreciate it.
You're always welcome. So that's Emmett Williams from Myzone, and this is Mel, the Gym Owners Business Network and podcast, signing off. I'll drop Emmett's details into the bottom of our podcast. Otherwise, we'll be seeing you all at Fibo USA in Orlando in December. Thank you.